I always thought I would see it coming. If my marriage ever fell apart, if my wife ever decided to leave me, I thought I'd notice the signs, a change in her behavior, distant eyes, cold touches, fewer words. But I was wrong, because when it happened, it came out of nowhere, like a bullet to the chest, like a knife slid between my ribs while I wasn't looking. It was just another day, a normal, forgettable day, until my phone rang. And when I answered, everything I thought I knew about my life changed forever. I was sitting in my car, parked outside a convenience store. I had just picked up a few things for dinner. Nothing special, just another quiet night at home. Laura, my wife, was supposed to be waiting for me, but instead, my phone lit up with her name. At first, I smiled. I figured she was calling to ask me to grab something else from the store. Milk, wine, maybe something sweet. But the second I answered, I knew something was wrong. Her voice was strange, distant, cold. I can't kiss your mouth anymore. That was the first thing she said. Not, hey babe. Not, can you grab something on your way home? Not, we need to talk. Just those 7 words slicing through me like a blade. I sat there, frozen. What? Her next words were even worse. Forget me. I felt my heart drop into my stomach. Laura, what the hell are you talking about? My voice was shaky, but I barely noticed. She exhaled sharply on the other end. Not a sigh of sadness. Not hesitation. It sounded like relief. Like someone who had finally ripped off a bandage. I can't do this anymore. I don't love you. I don't even want to touch you. It's over. The world around me blurred. The people walking past my car. The cars honking in the distance. The sound of my own breathing. It all faded into nothing. Laura, where are you? Are you at home? Silence. Then she laughed. A small, bitter laugh. No, I'm not home. And I'm not coming back. I gripped the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. My heartbeat was pounding in my ears, but I forced myself to stay calm. What the hell is going on, Laura? My voice was steady, but barely. Talk to me. There's nothing to talk about. Her tone was empty. Not sad. Not regretful. Not even angry. Just gone. Like I wasn't a person she had loved for years. Like I wasn't even real. You don't just wake up and decide to disappear, Laura. I was trying to reason with her, try to pull her back to reality. But reality had already slipped through my fingers. I didn't wake up and decide this today, she said quietly. I've been feeling this way for a long time. A long time. I closed my eyes, a wave of nausea hitting me. All those nights, I told her I loved her. Had she already checked out? All the times I reached for her, and she didn't pull away. Was she just pretending? All the moments I thought we were happy. Was I the only one who felt it? Are you with someone else? The words fell from my mouth before I could stop them. I didn't want to ask, because I already knew the answer. The pause on the other end was just long enough to make my stomach turn. Then she said it. It doesn't matter. I let out a slow, shaky breath. It doesn't matter? I repeated, my voice lower, colder. No, she said simply. Because it's over, and nothing you say will change that. There was something so final about the way she said it. Like she had already moved on. Like I was a chapter she had already finished reading. I could feel something inside me breaking apart, piece by piece. So that's it. I whispered. No response. You're just going to disappear? Like I never existed? More silence. Then a soft sigh. Goodbye. The line went dead. And just like that, she was gone. I sat there for God knows how long, gripping my phone like I could somehow pull her back through the screen. The seconds stretched into minutes. The minutes felt like forever. I should have called her back. I should have driven to find her. I should have done something. But instead, I sat there in my car, staring blankly at the dashboard, feeling like someone had ripped my soul out of my chest. The woman I had loved, cherished, built a life with had just vanished with a single phone call. No fight, no discussion, no closure. Just gone. I replayed her words over and over. I can't kiss your mouth anymore. Forget me. I ran my tongue over my lips, tried to remember the last time she kissed me. Had she already felt this way back then? Had she been faking it for months? Had she already made up her mind while I was still loving her blindly? A sharp, bitter laugh escaped my throat. I felt sick. I felt dead inside. And then, slowly, I felt something else entirely. Because the pain was twisting into something new. Something colder. Something darker. I don't even want to touch you anymore. Forget me. No, no, Laura. You don't just get to walk away like I never existed. And when I got home, I was going to make sure you regretted every second of this. The world outside my car felt unreal. The streetlights blurred into streaks of gold as I sped past them. The dull hum of traffic and distant honking felt like they belonged to another universe, one where I still had a wife waiting for me at home. But in this universe, Laura was gone, and I was driving home to an empty house. My fingers gripped the steering wheel so tightly that my knuckles turned white. My breathing was shallow, uneven, like I had just been punched in the gut and hadn't fully recovered. I kept replaying her words over and over in my head. I can't kiss your mouth anymore. Forget me. What the hell kind of goodbye was that? No reason. No warning. Just forget me. I wanted to believe this was some kind of joke. Some kind of test. Maybe she wanted to see if I'd chase after her. Maybe she was having some kind of breakdown and needed space. Maybe. But deep down, I knew the truth. She meant it. She had planned this. That was the part that made my stomach turn. Laura had been thinking about this for a long time. While I was waking up next to her every morning, making her coffee, kissing her goodnight, she was already deciding how to leave me. And I had been too blind to see it. A choked, bitter laugh escaped my throat. What a fucking fool I was. When you love someone, you look at them through a filter. You see them the way you want to see them. You remember the good. You focus on the happy moments. You ignore the red flags because you want to believe that what you have is real. But when that love is ripped away, when the person you trusted the most throws you away like garbage, that filter shatters. And suddenly, I could see everything clearly. The way she had stopped saying I love you first. The way she would pull away slightly when I kissed her. The way she had started spending more time on her phone, smiling at messages she never shared. At the time, I had convinced myself it was stress, normal relationship ups and downs. But now I saw it for what it really was. She had checked out long before she left. She had been going through the motions, waiting for the moment she could finally cut me loose. And the worst part? She didn't even have the decency to say it to my face. She called me like I was some random guy she used to know. Not her husband. Not the man who gave her years of his life. Just someone to be discarded with a phone call. The more I thought about it, the more furious I became. At first, it had been shock, disbelief, heartbreak. But now, anger was creeping in. She left me. She didn't explain. She refused to tell me the truth. And worst of all, she expected me to just accept it. Like I was some pathetic little man who would sit in silence and just forget her. Forget? Was she out of her mind? Did she really think I could just erase her from my life like she never existed? I gritted my teeth, my jaw so tight it hurt. No, she wasn't going to get away with this. She wasn't going to walk away without consequences. And she sure as hell wasn't going to forget me. My fingers twitched over the phone sitting in the passenger seat. I had the urge to call her, to scream, to demand answers. But I knew she wouldn't pick up. Laura was gone. She had made her choice. And that meant I had to figure out the truth on my own. And the first question that clawed at my brain was the one I had asked her before she hung up. Are you with someone else? That single pause before she answered. The way she had said, it doesn't matter. I knew what that meant. I wasn't stupid. There was someone else. Maybe she had been seeing him in secret. Maybe she had fallen for someone new and didn't have the courage to tell me. Or maybe she had been waiting for the right moment to leave me for him. The thought made my stomach turn, because if that was true, if she had betrayed me like that, then I was about to become the coldest, most calculating version of myself I had ever been. I wasn't just going to let her run away into his arms like nothing happened. She had shattered my life, and I was going to make sure she felt every single piece of it. By the time I pulled into our driveway, I wasn't the same man who had left the house earlier that day. That man had been loving, trusting, hopeful. That man had believed in his wife. That man had been weak. But now I was something else. Something darker. Something stronger. I shut off the engine and sat there for a moment, gripping the steering wheel, staring at the front door of my house. Our house. But not anymore. Now it was just mine. And when I walked inside, I wasn't going to sit around and cry. I wasn't going to wallow in self-pity. I was going to take back control. Because she thought she could leave me without consequences. But she had no idea. She had just created a version of me she was going to regret. The driveway felt different. For years, I had pulled into this exact spot, turned off the engine, and walked into a home that felt warm, welcoming mine. But tonight, it felt like a graveyard, a place where something had died. I took a slow breath, gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. Laura was gone, but what the hell had she left behind? I needed to know. So I opened the door, stepped out, and walked into the house for the first time as a man who had been abandoned. The moment I stepped inside, I realized something was wrong. Not in a loud, chaotic way. No, it was the absence of something. The silence. No quiet hum of the TV in the background. No faint sound of her humming a song while she cooked. No perfume lingering in the air. Just nothing. A heavy, unnatural stillness that pressed against my chest. And for the first time since she called me, I felt it fully. The emptiness. The cold, undeniable fact that this house wasn't ours anymore. It was just mine. And suddenly it felt too damn big. I walked through the living room slowly, my footsteps too loud against the silence. Everything looked the same. The couch was still in its place. The framed pictures were still on the shelves. The coffee cup she used that morning was still sitting on the table. For a second, I felt insane. Like maybe I had imagined the whole thing. Maybe she was in the bedroom, getting ready for bed, waiting for me to come in and kiss her goodnight. Maybe, but then I saw it. The missing pieces. The empty coat rack, where her favorite jacket used to hang. The space on the dresser where her jewelry box had been. The bathroom counter, her toothbrush gone. Little things, but enough to tell me that she had been here. She had come home, and she had chosen what to take and what to leave behind. Like she had carefully erased herself from my life. I forced myself to walk toward my bedroom. I pushed open the door, my heart pounding like a drum. And that's when I saw the worst of it. The closet, half empty, her clothes gone, but mine still hanging like nothing had changed. The nightstand, bare, no more books stacked on her side, no more hair ties tossed carelessly on top. The bed, still made, except now there was only one pillow. I stood there, staring, trying to understand how the hell this had happened. 1 minute, she was here. The next, she was just a memory. And what killed me the most? She left the wedding ring. It was sitting on my nightstand. Not thrown, not abandoned in anger. Just placed there deliberately. Like she wanted me to see it. Like she wanted me to know this was final. I reached out, picking up the ring with shaking fingers. It felt wrong in my palm. Cold. Heavy. Like everything it stood for had been drained from it. Like it wasn't a symbol of love anymore. It was just scrap metal. I almost didn't see it. A small envelope tucked under the edge of the lamp. My name on the front. I knew what it was before I even touched it. I didn't want to read it. I didn't want to hear whatever bullshit excuse she had left behind. But I had to. So I tore it open. I know this is selfish. I know this will hurt you. But I can't pretend anymore. I need to go. That was it. No explanation. No apology. Just empty words on a piece of paper. She didn't even have the decency to say it to my face. And that's when something inside me snapped. I felt it building, the rage, the grief, the disbelief. It crawled up my spine, wrapping around my chest, making it hard to breathe. Because I had loved this woman. I had given her everything. And she had just walked away like I was nothing. Like I was forgettable. Like I was just a chapter in her story she had finished reading. My grip on the letter tightened. And before I even realized what I was doing, I tore it in half. Then again, and again, until the pieces were nothing but shreds of paper falling to the floor. And I just stood there, heart pounding, breath shaking, hands clenched into fists. And for the first time since I got that call, I felt nothing but anger. Not sadness, not heartbreak, just pure, burning fury. Because Laura might have thought she could walk away and leave me broken. She might have thought I would sit in this house, drowning in misery, waiting for her to come back. But she was wrong. She had no idea who she just betrayed. And when I was done, she was going to regret every second of this. There's a certain kind of pain that doesn't just hurt, it changes you. At first, I thought her leaving was the worst part. The shock, the emptiness, the way she vanished from my life like I never mattered. But I was wrong. Because the worst part? The worst part was finding out why she left. And when I did, it destroyed me. For days, I lived in a haze. Everything felt unreal. I went to work, went through the motions, came home to an empty house, but none of it felt real. Because my mind wouldn't shut up. It kept playing the same questions on repeat. Why did she do this? Was there someone else? Had she planned this for months? Was I just an idiot who ignored the signs? I thought about our last few weeks together. I thought about how she had still kissed me, touched me, slept next to me. Had she already checked out by then? Had she already been thinking about leaving while I was still loving her? I needed answers, because I refused to be left in the dark like some fool. I refused to be the only one suffering. So I started digging, and that's when I found the first clue. It started with a random bill. I had been sorting through our finances, trying to figure out what needed to be updated now that I was alone. And that's when I saw it. A charge I didn't recognize. A hotel booking, 2 weeks before she left. My stomach twisted into a tight knot. She had told me she was visiting her sister that weekend. But this was not her sister's house. I felt my heart pounding against my ribs as I logged into our joint bank account and started going through the transactions more carefully. And that's when I saw all of it. Expensive dinners for 2. Weekend getaways without me. A second phone plan, one I never knew existed. My hands were shaking by the time I put the statements down. Because there was no doubt now. She hadn't left because she needed space. She hadn't left because she wasn't happy. She had left because she had someone else. I could have stopped there. I could have accepted what I already knew. That she had betrayed me. That she had thrown away everything we built for another man. But I needed to see it for myself. I needed to know who he was. So I kept digging. And I found him. His name was Daniel. A co-worker. Someone she had been working with for over a year. And the worst part? He was married. My wife hadn't just left me. She had destroyed another marriage, too. I stared at his photo, my jaw clenched so tightly it hurt. This was the man she had thrown me away for. A man who had his own wife, his own family. A man who had been smiling in my face while sleeping with my wife behind my back. I felt something inside me snap. The pain, the heartbreak, the grief, all of it disappeared. And in its place, cold, calculated rage. Because now that I knew the truth, I wasn't just going to sit here and suffer. No, I was going to make both of them regret every second of what they had done. I sat back in my chair, exhaling slowly. My hands weren't shaking anymore. My breathing was even. Because now I had clarity. Laura hadn't left because she was unhappy. She hadn't left because she needed space. She had left because she had been sleeping with someone else for months. She had left because she thought she had found something better. She had left because she believed I would never find out. But now I knew everything. And that meant I was in control. I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to cry. I wasn't going to beg for explanations. Laura had made a mistake. A big mistake. She had thought I would be too broken to fight back. She had thought I would just accept my fate. But she had underestimated me. Because now that I knew the truth, I wasn't just going to sit back and take it. I was going to make them both suffer. And when I was done, Laura was going to wish she had never left. The moment I discovered the truth, something inside me shifted. The man I used to be, the one who loved blindly, who trusted without question, was gone. Laura had left me for another man. She had lied to my face, betrayed our marriage, and thought she could walk away without consequences. She thought I would be too broken to fight back. But she had underestimated me. Because now, I wasn't just going to move on. I was going to make sure she regretted every second of what she had done. And I had 3 options. I could walk away and find redemption. I could destroy her and get my revenge. Or I could do something she'd never see coming. And as I sat there, staring at the evidence of her affair, I knew exactly which path I was going to take. I didn't want an emotional reaction. I wanted a strategy. Laura had been playing games behind my back, lying, sneaking around, thinking she was in control. But now I was in control. So I started planning. And the first thing I did, I reached out to Daniel's wife. I found her number in less than an hour. Her name was Rebecca. She had been married to Daniel for 6 years. And just like me, she had no idea that her husband was sleeping with my wife. I dialed the number and waited. Hello. Her voice was soft, confused. She didn't recognize my number. I took a deep breath. Rebecca, you don't know me, but I think we need to talk. She hesitated. Who is this? I'm Laura's husband. Silence. Then a slow, shaky breath on the other end. What do you mean? I mean your husband has been fucking my wife for months. A sharp inhale. No, that's not possible. I exhaled slowly. Check his bank statements. Look at his messages. Look at the hotel charges. I have proof. She was silent for a long time. Then, finally, her voice dropped to a whisper. Send it to me. I sent her everything. The texts, the hotel receipts, the timeline of their affair. I gave her every weapon she needed. Because if there was one person who deserved to know the truth as much as I did, it was her. And once she had it, I sat back and let the chaos unfold. The fallout was immediate. The next day, Daniel's wife confronted him. And guess what? He crumbled like a fucking coward. He begged. He lied. He tried to deny it. But she had proof. She threw him out. And the best part? She called Laura. And she tore into her. Word for word, she told Laura what she was. A liar. A homewrecker. A woman who threw away her marriage for a man who couldn't even be faithful to his own wife. And Laura? She finally realized what she had done. Because Daniel wasn't going to save her. He was too busy trying to save himself. And suddenly, she had nowhere to go. It took 3 days. 3 days after her affair blew up before she texted me. Can we talk? I laughed when I saw it. Of course, she wanted to talk now. Now that she had lost everything. Her lover. Her safety net. Her perfect little fantasy world. Now she wanted to come back to the man she threw away. So I let her believe she had a chance. I agreed to meet. Not because I wanted to fix things, but because I wanted to see her face when she realized she had lost me forever. I met her at a small cafe, the same place where we used to have breakfast on Sundays. She was already there when I arrived. And when I saw her, she looked different. Not the confident, radiant woman who once told me she loved me. No, she looked exhausted, like someone who had bet everything and lost. I sat down across from her, leaning back in my chair. So, I gestured at her. Talk. She exhaled, biting her lip. I don't even know where to start. I said nothing. I just waited. And finally, she whispered the words I knew were coming. I made a mistake. I smirked. Yeah, you did. Her eyes filled with tears. I miss you. I raised an eyebrow. No, you miss stability. You miss comfort. You miss being taken care of. But you don't miss me. She swallowed hard, shaking her head. That's not true. I thought I wanted something else, but I was wrong. I want to fix things. And there it was. The final, pathetic attempt to rewrite history. Like I was just supposed to forget. Like I was supposed to forgive. But she had burned that bridge the moment she walked out the door. I leaned forward, my voice calm. Laura, you don't get to break me and then come back when it's convenient for you. Her breath hitched. Please. I stood up, looking down at her for the last time. I hope it was worth it. And then I walked away because she had already lost. She had lost the only person who ever truly loved her. And me? I was free. This wasn't just revenge. This was justice. And as I walked away, feeling the weight lift from my shoulders, I realized something. Laura had tried to erase me from her life. But in the end, she was the one who became forgettable. I don't think anyone ever expects it. That moment when the person you love, the person you build a life with, looks you in the eyes and says something so shattering that it doesn't just break your heart. It changes you. Because once you hear those words, once they settle into your bones, you can't go back. And for me, that moment happened on a night that was supposed to be like any other. I came home tired but content. It had been a long day at work, the kind that drains you. But in the back of my mind, there was always a sense of comfort knowing I'd be home soon, where she was. Home wasn't just walls and furniture. It was her, Laura, my wife, my partner, my best friend. At least, that's what I thought she was. Looking back now, I should have seen the signs. The subtle shifts in our relationship that I brushed off as nothing. The way her hugs became less frequent, less tight, less lingering. The way she stopped reaching for me first. The way her voice sounded when she said, I love you, like she was just going through the motions. But love makes you blind, doesn't it? You tell yourself that it's just stress, just a phase, just life getting in the way. I never imagined it was something else entirely. I walked in, expecting the usual routine. A kiss, a warm greeting, maybe a quiet dinner together. Instead, I found her sitting on the couch, staring at nothing, her posture too still. Something about the way she sat there sent a weird feeling crawling up my spine. "Hey," I said, setting my keys down. "You okay?" She turned her head slowly, her eyes meeting mine. And what I saw there, it wasn't love. It wasn't anger, sadness, or even guilt. It was just emptiness, like she had already left me in her mind. And then she said it. "I can't hug you anymore." The words hit me like a punch to the chest. I let out a soft, confused laugh, thinking I misheard her. "What?" She exhaled, looking away. I can't. I don't want to." The air left my lungs. I blinked, my body suddenly feeling too heavy, like gravity had doubled in strength. "You don't want to hug me?" I repeated slowly, trying to process what the hell was happening. She didn't flinch. She didn't look guilty, didn't cry, didn't even shift uncomfortably. She just sat there, cold, detached, as if she was talking to a stranger. "No." My heart was pounding now, my mind scrambling for something, anything that could explain this. Did I do something wrong? No answer. "Are you upset with me? Is there something I should know?" Nothing. Just that same emotionless expression. And then she finally spoke. "I don't feel the same way anymore." There it was. The dagger to the heart. I swallowed hard, trying to keep my voice steady. "Feel the same way about what?" She sighed, like this conversation was exhausting for her. "You. Us." She was already gone. I could see it in the way she spoke. I could hear it in the indifference in her voice. Like I was some mistake she had outgrown. And the worst part? She wasn't even trying to make it easier for me. She wasn't crying. She wasn't conflicted. She had already checked out. I thought about the past few months. Had she been pulling away this whole time? She had been working later. She had been spending more time on her phone. She had been less affectionate, less engaged, less present. I had noticed all of it, but I had ignored it, because I didn't want to believe that the woman I loved was slipping away. And now she was telling me, to my face, that she didn't even want to touch me. Like my existence was some burden she no longer wanted to carry. I felt my stomach twist. "Is there someone else?" She finally looked at me, and I saw it. That small, tiny hesitation. A flicker of something in her eyes before she quickly shook her head. "No." But it wasn't convincing. It wasn't real. I clenched my jaw, swallowing the anger building in my chest. Because even if she wasn't physically with someone else yet, her heart, it wasn't mine anymore. I took a step back. I needed to breathe, to think, to process this moment before I did something I'd regret. Because my first instinct was to beg, to ask her to reconsider, to ask her why, to try to fix whatever was broken. But as I stood there, staring at her detached expression, I realized something. This wasn't something I could fix, because she didn't want to fix it. She had already made up her mind. And suddenly, something inside me clicked. I didn't need to fight for someone who had already let me go. I didn't need to hold on as someone who had no intention of holding on to me. And I sure as hell didn't need to stay in a life where I was no longer wanted. So I took a deep breath, and then I did something I never thought I'd do. I let her go. I don't know how long I stood there. Maybe a few seconds. Maybe an hour. Time didn't feel real anymore. All I knew was that something inside me had shattered. Something I would never be able to put back together. She had just told me she couldn't hug me anymore. Like it was the simplest thing in the world. Like I was nothing. And now, I had to figure out how the hell I was supposed to live with that. I don't feel the same way anymore. Her words echoed in my head as I sat on the edge of our bed, staring at the floor. I should have left. I should have gotten up and walked out that door, never looking back. But instead, I sat there waiting for her to say something else, waiting for her to take it back, waiting for some explanation that would make this all make sense. But she just stood there, silent, like she had already moved on in her mind. "So that's it?" I finally asked, my voice sounding hollow. She hesitated, and for the first time, she looked uncomfortable, like she wasn't sure what to say, like she was debating how much truth she should give me. But when she finally spoke, it wasn't the truth I was hoping for. "I don't know what else to say." "You don't know?" I repeated, laughing bitterly. "You just told me you can't even hug me anymore, and now you don't know what else to say?" She swallowed, looking away. I don't want to hurt you." I let out a slow breath, try to control the rage and heartbreak twisting inside me. You don't want to hurt me, I repeated, shaking my head. Then maybe you should start with the truth. She shifted uncomfortably, running a hand through her hair. It's not that simple, but it was very simple. She just didn't want to say it. Something clicked in my head at that moment. I had been ignoring the truth for weeks, maybe even months. The late nights, the distant stares, the forced smiles, the way she would tense up when I touched her. I had seen all the signs, but I had convinced myself that it was just stress, exhaustion, life getting in the way. But that wasn't it, was it? No. She had already checked out. She had already decided to leave. And I had been too blind to see it. Or maybe I just didn't want to see it, because seeing it would have meant accepting that the woman I loved had stopped loving me back. And now here I was, forced to accept it anyway. I wanted to yell. I wanted to demand answers. I wanted her to say something real, something honest, something that actually made sense. But I could see it now. She wasn't going to give me that. She wasn't going to explain why she had been acting different. She wasn't going to admit what had really changed. Because in her mind, she had already done enough by saying, I don't feel the same way. That was all I was going to get. No closure, no apology, no respect for everything we had built together. Just emptiness. And I wasn't sure what was worse. The fact that she had fallen out of love with me, or the fact that she didn't even think I deserved an explanation. The pain was still there, but it was different now. It wasn't the kind of pain that made you beg for answers. It wasn't the kind of pain that made you fight for someone who didn't want to be fought for. No, it was the kind of pain that woke you up. Because I finally saw what was happening here. She had already moved on. Whether she had someone else or not, she was gone. Mentally, emotionally, maybe even physically. She had been planning this, waiting for the right moment to drop it on me. And now that she had, she was ready to walk away. And maybe it was time I was too. I slowly stood up, my heart beating hard against my ribs. She watched me carefully, maybe expecting me to lash out, to cry, to beg. But I did none of those things. I just stared at her, really looked at her. And for the first time in years, I didn't see the woman I had fallen in love with. I saw a stranger. And suddenly, something inside me shifted. I wasn't going to waste another second fighting for someone who didn't give a damn about me. She had made her choice. Now I was going to make mine. Something inside me snapped. Not in an explosive, raging way. Not in a way that made me want to scream or throw something. No, it was quieter than that. Colder. It was the kind of snap that happens when a person finally understands, when they see the truth so clearly that it burns away every last illusion. She wasn't mine anymore. Maybe she hadn't been for a long time, and I was done pretending otherwise. I had spent the last few minutes begging my brain to make sense of this, trying to figure out what I did wrong, trying to find a way to fix what was broken. But then, standing there in front of her, watching her barely react, barely care, I understood. I wasn't losing her. I had already lost her. And suddenly, I wasn't heartbroken anymore. I was tired. Tired of being the one who cared more. Tired of fighting alone in a relationship that was supposed to be built for two. Tired of holding on to a ghost of a woman who had already let go of me. I took a slow breath, my hands clenching in a fist before I relaxed them. And then I made my choice. I was walking away. I straightened my shoulders, my face going blank. She was expecting tears, anger, pain. But I gave her nothing, just a cold, empty stare. And for the first time that night, I saw it, a flicker of something in her eyes. Not sadness, not regret, but confusion. Because she was expecting me to break down. She was expecting me to fight for her, to demand answers, to beg her to stay. But I wasn't going to do any of that. Because the second I made the decision to walk away, something changed inside me. I wasn't her doormat anymore. I wasn't her fallback option. I wasn't hers to hurt. I was done, and she could feel it. "Where are you going?" she asked when I turned toward the door. Her voice was still emotionless. But I could hear it now, the slight shift, the smallest trace of uncertainty. I stopped at the doorway, but I didn't turn around. "I don't know," I said, my voice steady. "But I know I'm not staying here." A long silence stretched between us. Then she let out a breath, like she had expected me to push back, to fight for her, to beg for another chance. And when I didn't, she didn't know what to do. I could feel it in the air, the way she had prepared herself for a different kind of reaction. But I wasn't giving her that, because I wasn't giving her anything anymore. I grabbed my keys off the counter, and for the first time in my life, I didn't feel obligated to say goodbye. I didn't owe her one last look. I didn't owe her one last word. I didn't owe her anything, because she had already discarded me. Now, I was just returning the favor. And that's when I realized something. She had expected control over the situation. She had expected to be the one in charge, the one ending things on her terms. But by walking away first, by refusing to give her the reaction she expected, I was the one in control now. And she could feel it. Right before I stepped out the door, I made the mistake of glancing back at her. And for the first time since this whole nightmare started, I saw something different in her expression. For the first time, she looked unsure. Not devastated. Not remorseful. Just unsure. Like she was realizing something for the first time. That maybe, just maybe, she had miscalculated. That maybe I wasn't as weak as she thought. That maybe I wouldn't be the one sitting at home, waiting for her to change her mind. And in that moment, I felt nothing for her. Not love. Not pain. Not longing. Just indifference. And that was the moment I knew. I had already won. I didn't slam the door. I didn't yell, didn't curse, didn't do anything dramatic. I just left. And as I stepped into the cool night air, something inside me felt lighter. Like I had been carrying dead weight for too long. Like I'd been trapped in a story that wasn't mine anymore. I got into my car, started the engine, and drove away. And as the house disappeared in my rearview mirror, I realized something else. I didn't feel lost. I didn't feel broken. I felt free, because I wasn't just walking away from her. I was walking away from the version of myself that thought I needed her. And that was the most powerful feeling in the world. Some people don't realize what they have until it's gone. Some people think they can walk away without consequences, that they can discard a person like an old memory and never feel the weight of their choice. And Laura? She thought she was one of those people. She thought she could tell me she didn't love me anymore, that she couldn't even hug me, and that I'd sit in silence, waiting, hoping she'd change her mind. She thought she'd be free of me. But what she never expected was what would happen when I was free of her. And that's when she started to regret everything. After I walked out that door, I never looked back. I didn't call. I didn't text. I didn't ask for explanations. I disappeared completely. And that's when it hit her. Because Laura had expected me to linger. She had expected to find missed calls, messages, desperate attempts to pull her back. But instead, there was nothing. Not a single sign that I was still waiting for her. And that silence? It started eating at her. Because for the first time, she was the one left wondering. Where was I? Was I hurting? Was I moving on? Or worst of all, was I happier without her? At first, she probably convinced herself that I was sulking somewhere. That I was still broken, still hoping she'd change her mind. But then she started to hear things. From mutual friends, from social media, from the world that kept moving without her. And what she found out, it killed her. Because I wasn't just getting by, I was thriving. I hit the gym, reshaped my body, turned myself into someone unrecognizable. I went out, made new friends, lived my life like she never existed. I started posting pictures, laughing, smiling, doing all the things she thought I'd be too broken to do. And suddenly, she was a one stuck in the past. Because while I was building a new life, she was stuck in the ruins of the old one. The one she destroyed. It started with something small. A text. Hey, how have you been? I stared at my screen, a smirk pulling at my lips. There it was. The first crack in her confidence. She thought she could just drift back in, test the waters, see if I was still waiting. But I wasn't. I left her on read. When I didn't answer, she tried again. I was just thinking about you today. Hope you're okay. I ignored it. A week later, she got bolder. I miss talking to you. Do you think we could meet up? This time, I let out a short laugh. Meet up? For what? To give her the closure she never gave me? To make her feel better about what she did? No. She had already made her choice. Now, she had to live with it. The moment she truly realized her mistake, it was the night we saw each other by accident. I was out with some friends, laughing, drinking, living. And then, I saw her. She was standing near the bar, staring at me, her lips slightly parted like she couldn't believe what she was seeing. I wasn't the same man she left. I wasn't broken, lost, or waiting for her. I was stronger, better, happier, and the look on her face? It was pure regret, like she finally understood that she hadn't just left me. She had left behind the only man who ever truly loved her. And that's when she did the one thing I had been waiting for. She walked over. She tried to start again. But I just smiled. Sorry, Laura. I don't hug people from my past. And then I walked away. Forever. Birthdays are supposed to be happy moments. A day where you feel loved, appreciated, celebrated. And for most of my life, that's what they were. But this one changed everything. This was the birthday where I learned that the woman I loved wasn't who I thought she was. Because in front of everyone I cared about, she humiliated me in a way I never thought possible. And when it was over, she had the audacity to look me in the eyes and say, "But I love you." I woke up that morning feeling good. 32 years old, a solid career, good friends, a beautiful wife. Life wasn't perfect, but I had built something meaningful. And tonight was supposed to be a celebration of that. Laura, my wife, had insisted on planning the party herself. "Just relax," she had told me with a smile. "Let me handle everything." So I did. I let her take control. I let her choose the venue, the guest list, the decorations. I trusted her. And that was my first mistake. Because while I thought she was planning a celebration for me, she was actually setting the stage for my downfall. The restaurant was packed. Friends, co-workers, even some family members I hadn't seen in months were there. There was a huge cake, drinks flowing, music playing, the kind of party people would talk about for weeks. And at the center of it all was Laura. She was smiling, laughing, acting like the perfect wife. She kissed me, pulled me into conversations, made sure I had a drink in my hand at all times. It felt like love. It felt right. But in hindsight, I should have noticed the small things. The way she kept glancing at her phone. The way her friends were whispering, exchanging looks. The way she was too excited about something I didn't understand. Because what I didn't know was that this wasn't just a party. It was a setup. It happened when the speeches started. My best friend, Jake, kicked it off with a lighthearted toast about how we'd known each other since college. A few others followed, some funny stories, some sentimental words. And then it was Laura's turn. She stood up, grinning mischievously as she tapped her glass. Okay, my turn," she announced, flipping her hair over her shoulder. Everyone turned to her, smiling, expecting something sweet, romantic, something a wife would say to the man she loves. But instead, she took the microphone and destroyed me. "First of all, let's all take a moment to appreciate how lucky I am to be married to this man," she started, looking at me with a smile that wasn't real. People chuckled. I smiled back, expecting a playful joke or an inside story. Then, she continued, "I mean, ladies, you know what it's like when you marry someone and realize they're not exactly the man you thought they were?" The room shifted. Some nervous laughter. Some confused expressions. I felt a twinge of something in my stomach. Something wasn't right. Like, "Don't get me wrong," she went on, her tone playful, but her eyes sharp. "I love him. I do. But let's just say if I had known some things before we got married, maybe I would have made different choices." My stomach dropped. I felt the first ripple of humiliation creeping up my spine. Because she wasn't toasting me. She was roasting me. In front of everyone. She kept going. She joked about how I had gained weight since we got married. She laughed about how I was terrible at fixing things around the house. Even exaggerating, making it sound like I was completely useless. She told everyone that I cried during movies, making it sound pathetic instead of human. And then she went for the final blow, something that made my blood run cold. And oh my God, you guys, let's not even talk about our love life. A few people gasped. Some laughed, thinking it was just a joke. But I knew. She had just crossed the line. Because this wasn't playful anymore. This was humiliation. This was intentional. I could feel the eyes on me. Some were amused. Some were uncomfortable. Some were pitying me. And that was the worst part. I wasn't just embarrassed. I was being pitted by my own friends, my own family. And Laura? She just stood there, laughing, acting like it was all harmless fun. I stared at her, my face burning, my hands clenched under the table. I could have laughed it off. I could have played along. But something inside me had shifted, because I suddenly saw everything clearly. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't a drunk slip-up. This was who she really was. And the realization hit me like a train. I had spent years loving someone who didn't respect me. I had trusted someone who was willing to tear me down in front of an audience. And that's when I knew. This wasn't just a bad birthday. This was the beginning of the end. There's a moment after something terrible happens when your mind refuses to process it. It's like your brain is trying to protect you from the pain, from the realization that everything you thought was real has just been ripped away. That's how I felt the second Laura put down a microphone. The laughter was dying down. People were shifting in their seats, whispering to each other, throwing glances at me that burned my skin. And me? I just sat there, frozen. My heart was pounding in my ears, but my face, completely numb. I wasn't sure if I wanted to explode in anger or just disappear completely. Laura sat back down next to me, smiling like she had just delivered a great performance. Like what she did was harmless fun. She leaned in, touching my arm. "Babe, don't be mad. It was just a joke." A joke. I turned my head slowly, staring at her, trying to understand how she could even say that. "A joke," I repeated, my voice low. "You think that was a joke?" She rolled her eyes, still playing the charming, innocent wife act in front of everyone. "Oh, stop being so sensitive." Everyone was laughing. They loved it. I clenched my jaw, because I knew what she was doing. She was trying to make me feel like the bad guy, like I was overreacting, like I was the one ruining the party. But the truth? She had just humiliated me in front of everyone, and she didn't even care. I could feel the weight of all the eyes on me. Some people were avoiding looking at me altogether, pretending like it never happened. Some were whispering, glancing back and forth between me and Laura. And the worst ones? The ones who had actually laughed. They were waiting to see what I would do, waiting to see if I would just laugh it off and take it. Because that's what she wanted. That's what everyone expected. For me to just smile, pretend it was nothing, and go along with the show. Like a pathetic little joke of a husband. But that wasn't going to happen. Not anymore. My hands were clenched into fists under the table. I had never been this angry in my entire life. Not even in fights as a teenager. Not even when someone tried to mess with me at work. This was different. Because this wasn't a stranger doing this to me. It was my wife. The woman who was supposed to have my back. The woman who was supposed to be my partner. Instead, she was laughing at me, tearing me down in front of people I respected, mocking me in front of my friends, my family, my colleagues. And the worst part? She knew exactly what she was doing. I could see it in her face. She was enjoying it. And that was the moment I knew I could never look at her the same way again. I exhaled slowly, forcing my heartbeat to slow down. I wasn't going to explode. I wasn't going to yell or make a scene. Because that's what she expected. That's what she wanted. For me to react, to get defensive, to make her the victim. So I did the one thing she never saw coming. I went completely still, calm, controlled. And then, I slowly pushed my chair back and stood up. The room went dead silent. Laura blinked up at me, confused. "Where are you going?" I looked down at her, and for the first time since we met, I didn't feel love for her. I felt nothing. "I need some air." I didn't wait for a response. I turned and walked away, leaving her and the entire party behind. I didn't go outside for fresh air. I didn't take a breather and come back inside like everything was okay. I got in my car, and I drove away. I didn't check my phone. I didn't respond to the texts that started coming in from friends asking if I was okay. I just drove because I needed to get away from her. And that's when she must have realized that something was different. That I wasn't just angry. That I wasn't going to brush this off. Because the moment I pulled into my driveway, parked, and sat in silence for a second, my phone buzzed. It was her. "Babe, where did you go?" I stared at the screen. And for the first time ever, I didn't feel the need to answer her. Because something inside me had shifted. This marriage? It wasn't going to survive this. And deep down, I think she knew it too. There's a moment in life when you realize that some people don't actually love you. They just love having control over you. And when I read Laura's text, "Babe, where did you go?" I knew. She wasn't worried. She wasn't feeling guilty. She just didn't like that I walked away first. And for the first time, I wasn't going to be the one chasing after her. I ignored her text. For the first time in years, I didn't rush to explain myself or fix things. I let her sit in that silence. And it took less than 10 minutes for her to start calling. First once, then twice, then 4 times in a row. I let it ring. But on the 5th call, I picked up because I wanted to hear what excuse she would come up with. And the second I answered, she started talking fast, desperate, trying to spin everything in her favor. Babe, what the hell? Why did you leave like that? I didn't say anything at first. I just let her sit in the silence the same way she had let me sit in my humiliation. Are you seriously mad right now? She continued, her voice rising. It was a joke. Come on. Everyone was laughing. It wasn't that serious. I closed my eyes, inhaling slowly. Not that serious? I repeated, my voice calm, controlled. You stood up in front of all my friends, my family, and ripped me apart like I was some joke to you. And you expect me to just laugh along. She sighed, like she was the one getting frustrated. You're overreacting. God, I didn't mean anything by it. That's when I laughed, because I finally understood. She didn't feel bad. She wasn't sorry. She was just mad that I wasn't playing my part anymore. After I didn't respond, she changed tactics. Her voice softened. Listen, babe, you know I love you, right? I didn't say anything. I would never hurt you on purpose. She exhaled, lowering her tone like she was trying to guilt me into feeling bad. I just wanted to make people laugh. I wanted you to have a fun birthday. I thought you'd be okay with it. I clenched my jaw. There it was. The classic gaslighting. She wasn't apologizing. She was trying to rewrite reality. Trying to make me believe that I was the one being unreasonable. That I was the problem for not finding it funny. That her public humiliation of me was somehow an act of love. And the worst part? I had fallen for these tactics before. The countless times she'd made me doubt my own feelings. The time she made me feel like I was too sensitive whenever she crossed the line. The time she convinced me that I was overreacting when she made me feel like nothing. But this time was different. I smiled to myself, a bitter, knowing smile. Because I finally saw her for what she was. Not a loving wife. Not a caring partner. Just someone who needed a punching bag to make herself feel better. And I was done being that. Laura, I said, my voice eerily calm. You don't humiliate the people you love. Silence. I could feel her grasping for control, trying to figure out how to manipulate me next. I didn't mean. No, I cut her off. You did. You meant every single word. Come on, babe. No. My voice was cold now. This isn't love. Whatever this is, it's not love. She sucked in a breath, and for the first time, I heard fear in her voice. Not fear of losing me. Fear of losing control over me. You're not going to let this go, are you? She muttered, her tone changing from sweet to bitter in an instant. And that told me everything I needed to know. She wasn't sorry. She never was. She just wanted me to move past it, so she could keep doing whatever the hell she wanted. But I wasn't that guy anymore. I wasn't going to argue. I wasn't going to fight for an apology I knew I'd never get. I was done. So I exhaled, feeling the weight finally lift off my shoulders. You're right, Laura, I said, my voice neutral. I'm not going to let this go. Silence. So what now? She asked, her voice sharp, annoyed. I let out a slow breath. Now, I said, already knowing what I was about to do next. Now, I stop helping you. Now, I stop making excuses for you. Now, I stop loving someone who clearly doesn't love me back. And then, I hung up. And for the first time in years, I felt free. There comes a moment when you realize that you're done. Not just angry. Not just hurt. Not just frustrated. Done. That was where I was. Because love isn't supposed to feel like this. And now, for the first time, I wasn't just accepting the truth. I was finally acting on it. And the moment I hung up on Laura, that was the moment I walked away for good. I sat there, my phone still in my hand, staring at the screen. No incoming calls. No new messages. No desperate attempt from her to fix what she had broken. Because she wasn't trying to fix anything. She just wanted to win. And when she realized she wasn't going to, she gave up. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel defeated. I felt relieved. Because I didn't have to fight for her attention anymore. I didn't have to convince myself that her love was real. I didn't have to make excuses for the way she treated me. For the first time, I wasn't waiting for her to love me the way I deserved. I was just moving on. Walking away wasn't just about leaving her behind. It was about rebuilding myself. And that meant I had to start making real changes. At cutting her out completely. I didn't wait for the next conversation. I didn't wait for another round of manipulation. I blocked her number, deleted our messages, unfollowed her on every platform. I erased her from my life. Because if she wanted to act like I didn't matter, then I was going to show her what that really looked like. B. Hitting the gym, turning pain into power. I needed an outlet. So I started working out. Every drop of sweat, every rep, every mile on the treadmill wasn't just exercise. It was a release, a way to take back control of my body, my mind, my confidence. I wasn't just healing. I was becoming someone she would never recognize again. C. Reconnecting with friends, rebuilding my support system. The worst part about toxic relationships? You don't even realize how much you've isolated yourself until you're free. So I reached out. I texted old friends, started saying yes to invites, and I finally realized how much of my life I had given up just to keep her happy. That was over now. Now, I was putting myself first. It took 2 weeks for her to reach out again. I expected it sooner, but Laura was calculating. She probably thought I'd cave first. When she finally did message me, it wasn't an apology. It wasn't a confession of regret. It was just one simple text. Do you really not care anymore? I stared at the message for a long time, not because I was tempted to respond, but because I realized something. She wasn't asking if I still loved her. She wasn't asking if I was okay. She wasn't asking if we could fix things. She was just trying to see if she still had control over me. And the answer? No, she didn't. So I did the one thing she never expected. I left her on read. She thought she had won that night. She thought she had broken me in front of everyone, made me a joke, made herself the center of attention. But in the end, she was the one left chasing a ghost. Because now, she had to sit with her own choices. She had thrown away a man who actually loved her. She had lost someone who would have done anything for her. She had gambled on humiliation over respect. And in return, she got exactly what she deserved. Nothing. I took one last deep breath, looked at the city lights through my window, and smiled. Not because I was happy about what happened. Not because I wasn't still healing, but because I knew I was never going to let this happen again. Never again would I beg for love. Never again would I fight for someone who wasn't fighting for me. Never again would I be someone's joke. Because I was no longer her victim. I was free, and I wasn't coming back. People say you remember the moment you fall in love. A glance across the room. A smile that makes your heart stutter. That first conversation that flows so effortlessly, making you feel like you've known each other forever. And for a long time, I thought that was how I met her, Laura. But looking back, that moment wasn't love. It was just the beginning of the biggest lie of my life. I met Laura at a friend's party. One of those small get-togethers where the music is a little too loud and everyone is talking over each other. I wasn't even supposed to be there that night. I had just gotten out a long work shift, exhausted, and was seconds away from just heading home. But Jake, my best friend, convinced me to stop by. Come on, man, you need to have some fun. Who knows? Maybe you'll meet someone. I laughed at the time. I wasn't looking for anything. But the moment I stepped into that crowded apartment, I saw her. Laura. She wasn't the loudest person in the room. She wasn't the center of attention. She was standing near the window, drink in hand, looking completely at ease, like she didn't have to try to be beautiful. She had this effortless confidence about her, the kind that pulls people in without them realizing it. And that's exactly what happened to me. I don't even remember how I ended up next to her. One second, I was talking to a friend. The next, I was standing right beside her, and she turned to look at me with those sharp, knowing eyes. "You look like you don't want to be here," she said, smirking. I blinked, surprised. "Is it that obvious?" I chuckled, scratching the back of my head. "A little," she admitted. "But I like that. Means you're not just here for the scene." That was the first thing about Laura that drew me in. She seemed to understand me immediately, like she could read people without them saying a word. She wasn't just another person trying to make small talk. She was genuinely interested. Or at least, she pretended to be. That night, we talked for hours. About everything. Our favorite music. The worst movies we'd ever seen. Her love for travel, my passion for building things. I told her about my job, how I had just started making a name for myself in my field. She listened like I was the most interesting person in the world. And the way she laughed, it made me feel like I had just won something. Looking back now, I realized that Laura was always good at making people feel like they mattered, at least in the beginning. She had a way of making you believe you were the only person in the room. That night, I thought I had met someone different, someone who saw me. But in reality, she was just playing her part. We didn't exchange numbers that night. She left the party before I could ask, and for the first time in a long time, I felt something I hadn't felt in years, the thrill of wanting someone who wasn't immediately available. Jake laughed when I told him, "Damn, man, she really got to you, huh?" "She's different," I said, shaking my head. And for the next week, I couldn't get her out of my head. Then, as if fate had planned it, I ran into her again, this time at a coffee shop near my office. She was sitting by the window, scrolling through her phone. And when she saw me, she smiled like she had been waiting for me all along. From that moment on, we were inseparable. Long late-night phone calls, dates that stretched into the early hours of the morning, conversations that made me feel like I had finally found my person. I thought we had something real. I thought I was the luckiest man alive. But now I realized something chilling. She was never falling in love with me. She was just making sure I fell for her. There were things about Laura that never made sense. Little inconsistencies. The way she never really opened up about her past, always giving vague answers. The way she would disappear for hours without explanation, only to come back acting like nothing happened. The way she knew exactly what to say to make me feel secure whenever I questioned something. At the time, I thought she was just guarded, that she needed time to fully let me in. But now I know the truth. She wasn't protecting her heart. She was just playing a role. And when she finally looked me in the eyes and told me, "I never loved you," I realized something that made my blood run cold. She had never loved me from the start. There's a special kind of pain that comes from realizing everything you believed was a lie. It's not just heartbreak. It's not just betrayal. It's the gut-wrenching realization that the life you thought you were living never actually existed. Because I didn't just lose my wife the day Laura looked me in the eyes and said, "I never loved you." I lost years of my life. I lost the version of myself that believed in her. And worst of all, I lost the illusion of what I thought we had. The first year with Laura was perfect. At least, that's how it felt. We moved in together after 8 months of dating. It was fast, too fast, but I had never felt more sure of anything in my life. Living with her felt effortless, like we had been doing it forever. She turned our apartment into something that actually felt like home. She was the kind of woman who knew how to make any moment feel special. She left little notes in my jacket pocket before I left for work. She sent texts in the middle of the day just to say she missed me. She made dinner when I worked late, always greeting me with a smile when I walked through the door. It was the kind of relationship that people dream about. Or at least, that's what I thought. Now, I realized something that makes my stomach turn. She wasn't in love with me. She was just playing the role of a perfect girlfriend, setting the stage for the eventual downfall. Because real love isn't perfect. And what we had, it was a goddamn illusion. I proposed to Laura on a warm summer night, exactly 2 years after we met. It was romantic, planned down to the last detail. A rooftop dinner, a breathtaking view of the city skyline, her favorite flowers decorating the table. And when I got down on one knee, she gasped. Her hands flew to her mouth, and tears welled up in her eyes. She said yes, of course. She kissed me like I was the only man in the world. And for a moment, I felt like I had one, like I had found the one. But now I look back at that night and wonder, was she really crying because she was happy? Or was she crying because she had just secured her future? Because here's the thing, Laura never had to ask me for anything. She never pushed me toward marriage. She never even hinted at wanting a proposal. She just waited for me to make the choice she already knew I would make. Waited for me to trap myself in the fantasy she had created. Because when a man believes he chose something, he fights harder to keep it. And Laura? She knew exactly how to make me think this was all my idea. Our wedding was beautiful, the kind of day that makes people believe in love. Friends and family filled the room, watching as we exchanged vows, as I promised to love her forever. And in that moment, I meant every word. But what I didn't realize was that Laura didn't. She didn't promise forever. She didn't vow to love me through the good and the bad. Because she never really loved me at all. The changes were subtle at first. The way she'd turn away when I reached for her in bed. The nights she started coming home later and later, blaming work. The moments where she'd zone out during conversations, like she was somewhere else entirely. I chalked it up to stress. She's just tired. She's been working too hard. Marriage takes work, right? I excused it. I convinced myself that the woman I married was still in there somewhere. That if I just tried harder, loved her more, she'd come back to me. But what I didn't know was that Laura had never really been mine to begin with. I was just a placeholder, a man she could use to build the comfortable life she wanted, until she got bored. And that's exactly what happened. The last year of our marriage felt like living with a stranger. I still loved her. I still woke up next to her, still kissed her goodbye every morning, still cooked her favorite meals on Sundays. But Laura? Laura was already somewhere else. She stopped saying, "I love you." Stopped touching me unless I initiated it. Stopped looking at me like I was her husband, and started looking at me like I was just another person in the house. I asked her if something was wrong. I tried to fix it, but you can't fix something that was never real to begin with. And I was too blind to see that. It wasn't a dramatic discovery. No text messages from another man. No lipstick on a collar. No whispered phone calls in the middle of the night. It was something much worse. One night, as we were lying in bed, I reached for her hand. She didn't pull away, but she didn't hold mine either. She just let it sit there, lifeless, cold, like she didn't even notice. And in that moment, I felt something I had never felt before. Nothing. For the first time in our marriage, I realized that I wasn't holding my wife's hand. I was just holding the hand of a woman who had already left me emotionally. And that's when I knew. I had been living in a lie. The night it finally ended, there was no screaming, no fighting, just 6 words that shattered everything. She looked me in the eyes, her face completely blank, and said, "I never loved you." No emotion, no hesitation, just a cold, brutal fact that instantly rewrote our entire history. I remember feeling the air leave my lungs, like someone had just punched me in the chest, like my entire body had gone numb. I opened my mouth to say something, but nothing came out. What could I even say? How do you argue with something like that? How do you fight for a love that never existed? I stared at her, searching for something, anything, in her expression that would tell me she was lying. But I found nothing, because she wasn't lying. She was just finally telling the truth. And at that moment, I knew I had wasted years of my life on a woman who never loved me. There are moments in life that break you. Moments that don't just hurt, they take something from you. They strip away everything you thought you knew, everything you thought was real, until all that's left is a hollow version of yourself. That's what happened the moment Laura looked me in the eyes and said, "I never loved you." She might as well have put a knife in my chest, because in that instant, everything I believed in shattered. Everything I thought we had, gone. Everything I thought she felt, a lie. And suddenly, I was standing in the wreckage of a life that was never real to begin with. After she said it, she just stood there, watching me, waiting, like she expected me to do something, to scream, to beg, to cry. But I didn't do any of that, because I couldn't. I just stood there, staring at her, feeling like I had just been hit by a truck. My heart was pounding in my chest, but my body, completely numb. I opened my mouth to say something, but no words came out. Because what the hell do you even say to something like that? How do you argue with a truth that destroys you? I looked at her face, searching for something, anything, that would tell me she didn't mean it. That maybe she was angry. That maybe she had just said it to hurt me. That maybe, just maybe, there was still something left between us. But there was nothing. Just a blank expression. Just cold, brutal detachment. Like this was just another Tuesday night conversation for her. Like she hadn't just ripped my heart out and set it on fire. And that was the worst part. Not the words, not the betrayal, but the emptiness in her face when she said it. Like she truly, genuinely felt nothing for me. I don't remember leaving the room. I don't remember walking away from her. I just remember the sound of my own heartbeat thudding in my ears. And this one thought looping in my mind like a goddamn curse. She never loved me. She never loved me. She never loved me. Over and over, like my brain was forcing me to believe it, forcing me to accept that the last few years of my life had been a joke. I sat down on the edge of our bed, staring at the floor. And then the memories hit me, hard, like a film reel playing against my will. All the moments I had thought were real. The first time she told me she loved me, was she lying then? Our wedding day, when she held my hands and said, "Forever." Did she mean it? Every night we spent together, every kiss, every touch, was any of it real? And then the darkest thought of all crept in. Did she ever even like me? Or was I just a placeholder? Someone to fill the space until she found something better? The realization hit me like a gunshot to the chest. I had spent years loving a woman who never loved me back. I had built a life around someone who never even wanted to be in it. And suddenly, I felt like I couldn't breathe. People think heartbreak is just an emotion, but it's not. It's physical. I felt it in my chest, a deep, tight ache that made it feel like someone was squeezing my lungs. My hand was shaking. My body felt weak, like I had been drained of every ounce of energy I had left. I tried to take a deep breath, but it hitched in my throat. Because this wasn't just heartbreak. This was grief. Grief for the love I thought I had. Grief for the life I thought we built. Grief for the man I used to be before I knew the truth. And the worst part? I still loved her. Even after everything. Even after she told me, to my face, that she never loved me. I still felt it. I still wanted to reach for her, to hold her, to ask her why. But what would that even change? She had already given me her answer. At some point, I stood up and walked back toward the living room, where she was still standing. She turned to look at me, expression unreadable. For a second, I almost asked it. Why? Why did she marry me if she never loved me? Why did she let me believe we were happy? Why did she waste years of my life if she never felt anything? But the words never left my mouth, because deep down, I already knew the answer. She did it because she could, because I made it easy for her, because she knew I was the kind of man who would give without questioning. Because some people don't love you. They love what you do for them. And that's all I ever was to her. Not a husband, not a partner, just a man who made her life more comfortable. And once I realized that, I lost every reason to keep standing there. I looked at her one last time. She didn't look guilty. She didn't look sorry. She didn't look like someone who had just destroyed a man's entire world. And that's when I knew there was nothing left to say. So I did the only thing I could do. I walked to the bedroom, grabbed my keys, put on my jacket, and walked out the door. No goodbyes, no final words, nothing. Because the best revenge was to let her see me leave and never come back. And when that door closed behind me, I felt it. The end of us. The end of the illusion I had been living in. The end of the man who used to love her. Because I wasn't that man anymore. And I never would be again. When someone rips your heart out and tells you they never loved you, you'd think the pain would be enough to keep you from looking back. You'd think the betrayal, the humiliation, the sheer cruelty of it would make you want to erase them from your life forever. But that's the thing about heartbreak. It doesn't just hurt. It haunts you. It keeps you up at night, replaying every conversation, every kiss, every touch, until you start questioning your own sanity. Had she ever loved me, even a little? Was it all just a lie from the very beginning? Or was there a moment, just one moment, when she actually meant it? I needed answers. Not from Laura. She had already made herself clear. But from someone who might know the truth. And that's how I ended up sitting across from her best friend, Rachel, trying to piece together the wreckage of my marriage. I didn't call Rachel right away. The first few days after Laura shattered me, I did what most broken men do. I isolated myself. I didn't go to work. I didn't answer texts from friends who had seen my disastrous state and wanted to check in. I just existed in a world that suddenly didn't make sense anymore. But the questions wouldn't stop. They crawled under my skin, whispering in my ear at night, filling every quiet moment with doubt and confusion. And Rachel, Laura's closest friend, was the only person who might have real answers. So, after days of drowning in my own thoughts, I finally sent her a message. "Hey, I know this is weird, but can we talk? I just need some clarity." She answered within minutes. "I was waiting for you to reach out. Meet me at the Brick House Cafe at 7. I stared at her response, feeling an odd mix of relief and dread. She wasn't surprised, which meant she knew something, and that terrified me more than anything. When I arrived at the cafe, Rachel was already there, stirring a cup of tea with a look I couldn't quite read. I slid into the seat across from her, my stomach tight with nerves. "You look like hell," she said bluntly. "Yeah, well, turns out finding out your wife never loved you will do that to a guy." She exhaled sharply, rubbing her temples. "I don't even know where to start." "Then start with the truth," I said, my voice raw. "Did she ever love me?" Rachel flinched, and that reaction alone told me everything. She sighed, staring down at her cup like it held the answers. "I'm not going to lie to you," she finally said. "Laura, she's complicated." "Complicated?" I laughed bitterly. "No, Rachel. Being unsure about a career path is complicated. Not knowing what to eat for dinner is complicated. Looking your husband in the eyes and telling him you never loved him, that's not complicated. That's just F***ing cruel." Rachel didn't argue. Instead, she sighed again, leaning forward. "Okay, you want the truth? Here it is. Laura never loved you the way you loved her. I'm sorry, but she didn't. It felt like being punched in the gut, even though I had already suspected it, even though she had said it herself. Hearing it from someone else, it made it real." I clenched my fists under the table, forcing myself to stay calm. "So what was I then?" I asked, my voice tight. "A safety net? A convenient option?" Rachel hesitated, and then, with a pained look in her eyes, she nodded. "She saw you as stability, as comfort. She liked the way you treated her, the way you made her feel special. But did she love you? No, not in the way you deserved." A sharp, bitter laugh escaped my lips. Of course, I had been nothing but a comfortable, reliable presence, someone to come home to, someone to provide, someone to fill the space until she found something better. "Did everyone know?" I asked after a long silence. Rachel shook her head. "No. I think she even convinced herself at some point that she could grow to love you." "Then what changed?" Rachel hesitated again, and then she said something that made my blood turn to ice. "She met someone." The world around me tilted for a moment. "What?" "I don't know the details," Rachel said quickly. "But I know there was someone else. Maybe she didn't physically cheat. I can't say for sure. But emotionally, she checked out months ago." I felt my fingernails dig into my palms as I clenched my fists. A new kind of pain spread through me, a mixture of rage, betrayal, and disgust. "So that's why she suddenly stopped trying. Why she stopped caring." Rachel nodded, her eyes filled with genuine sympathy. "I didn't want to be the one to tell you this, but you deserve to know." I swallowed hard, my throat dry. All those nights, she had come home late, claiming she was with friends. All those moments where she looked at her phone and smiled, but never told me why. It all made sense now. Was she planning to leave me regardless? I asked, already knowing the answer. Rachel nodded. Yes, she was waiting for the right time. "But I think you leaving first," it threw her off. She didn't expect that. I let out a slow breath. She never expected me to walk away. She thought she could control how this ended. She thought she could discard me on her terms. But I had taken that power away from her. And that was the only victory I had left. I looked at Rachel, this woman who had been friends with my wife for years, who knew more about Laura than I ever did. And I asked her the last question I'd ever ask about Laura. "Do you think she regrets it?" Rachel gave me a long, searching look, and then she said something that finally made it click in my head. "Laura doesn't regret things. She just moves on." That was it. That was all I needed to hear. Laura wasn't sitting at home, crying over me. She wasn't having second thoughts. She wasn't wondering if she made a mistake. Because for her, this wasn't a mistake. It was a plan she executed perfectly. And that was the moment I truly, completely let go. I finished my drink, stood up, and nodded to Rachel. Thanks for the honesty. She looked like she wanted to say something else, maybe apologize again, maybe soften the blow. But I didn't need that. I had my answer. Laura never loved me. She had never planned to. And now, she didn't exist to me anymore. I walked out of that cafe feeling lighter than I had in weeks. Because for the first time, I wasn't carrying the weight of her ghost anymore. For the first time, I was truly, finally free. When you hit rock bottom, you have two choices. You can stay there, drowning in the pain, letting it define you. Or you can climb out, one painful step at a time, and become someone unrecognizable to the person who broke you. For the first few weeks after my conversation with Rachel, I stayed in the wreckage. I let myself feel every ounce of the betrayal, the humiliation, the disgust. I let the pain burn through me, searing every nerve, because I needed to know what it felt like to be completely destroyed. And then, I decided I was never going to feel that way again. This was my rebirth, and it started with a simple decision. Laura was never going to matter again. Not in my thoughts, not in my heart, not in my future. She took years of my life, but I refused to let her take another second. If I wanted to heal, I had to erase her. Not just physically, but mentally. That meant deleting every photo, throwing away every item that reminded me of her, blocking her number and social media, cutting off anyone who tried to bring her up. At first, it felt impossible. Every time I scrolled through my phone, her name was there. Every time I walked through my apartment, I saw traces of her books on the shelf, her favorite mug in the cabinet. So I did what I had to do. I purged. I deleted every single photo, message, and email. I packed up her things and left them at her doorstep without a note. And when I blocked her number, it felt like breathing for the first time in weeks. I wasn't just cutting her off. I was reclaiming my life. The emotional pain was still there. But instead of letting it consume me, I turned it into fuel. I started hitting the gym every day, not just to look better, but to feel stronger. Every weight I lifted, I imagined throwing her memory off of me. Every mile I ran, I was putting more distance between the man I was and the man I was becoming. Every bead of sweat was a reminder that I was still alive, still fighting, still moving forward. And after months of relentless work, I looked in the mirror and saw someone new. Someone who didn't just survive Laura's betrayal. Someone who thrived in spite of it. For too long, I let Laura control my world. She was my best friend, my partner, my go-to for everything. And when she was gone, I realized how small my world had become. So I forced myself to reconnect. I started saying yes to invites. I called old friends and repaired friendships I had let fade. I surrounded myself with people who actually cared about me. At first, it felt forced. I was still raw, still healing, still trying to figure out who I was without her. But slowly, it started to feel real. I started laughing again. I started enjoying my own company. I started to realize that I didn't need Laura. In fact, I never did. One day, months later, I woke up and realized something. I didn't feel anything for Laura anymore. Not love, not hate, not even anger. She was just a person I used to know. And that was the most powerful feeling in the world. Because when you truly move on, you don't need revenge. You don't need closure. You don't need them to regret losing you. You just don't care anymore. And when I reached that point, I knew I had won. It happened 6 months later. A random night. I was out with friends, laughing, living my life when my phone buzzed. I glanced at the screen and saw her name. Laura. My heart didn't race. My stomach didn't drop. I just stared at it and laughed. Because the old me, he would have panicked. He would have wondered what she wanted, if she missed him, if she regretted everything. But this new me, he didn't care. I let the phone ring. Then I blocked her number again, this time for good. And I went back to enjoying my night. Because she was just a ghost now. And I was fully, completely alive. I never got an apology. I never got closure. I never got to hear her say, I made a mistake. I should have loved you. And you know what? I didn't need any of it. Because I had learned something far more valuable. I learned that some people never deserve you in the first place. I learned that love is only real when it's mutual. I learned that walking away is the strongest move you'll ever make. And most importantly, I learned that I was always enough. Laura just wasn't capable of seeing it. But that was her loss, not mine. There are moments in life that divide everything into before and after. Moments that shatter reality, that change you so completely that you can never go back to who you were. For me, that moment came the night I first suspected Laura had someone else. At first, it was just a feeling, a quiet unease in the back of my mind. But feelings have a way of turning into evidence. And when the truth finally hit me, it didn't just hurt, it destroyed me. It wasn't some dramatic revelation. It wasn't lipstick on a collar or a stranger calling my phone. It was subtle at first, so small that I ignored it. The way she started pulling away from me, little by little. The way she laughed less at my jokes, even though she used to say I was the funniest person she knew. The way she started taking her phone with her everywhere, even to the bathroom, when before she used to leave it on the couch without a second thought. The first time I felt it, the first time I truly noticed something was wrong, was on a random Thursday night. We were sitting on the couch, watching a movie, something we'd done 100 times before. She was scrolling through her phone absent-mindedly, barely paying attention to the screen. That's when a notification popped up. It was quick, just a flash of light in the dim room. But it was enough. A message from an unknown number, with a preview that made my stomach twist into a knot. I can't stop thinking about last night. When can I see you again? I barely had time to process it before she tilted the phone away from me and locked the screen. I turned to look at her, my pulse pounding in my ears. Who was that? I asked, my voice steady but my heart racing. Laura didn't even look up from her phone. Just a friend. The lie slipped out so easily. Effortless. Like she had done this before. And maybe she had. That was the first moment I truly felt it. That deep, gut-wrenching sense of something is wrong. But still, I doubted myself. Because that's what people do when they love someone. They convince themselves that they're just being paranoid. That the woman they married wouldn't do something like that. But once that doubt was there, I couldn't unsee the signs. I started noticing everything. How she started going to bed later than usual, spending more time on her phone in the other room. How she started staying at work longer, when before she would rush home to be with me. How she started dressing differently, wearing lingerie that wasn't for me. The worst part? I still wanted to believe she was telling the truth. I wanted to believe I was just overthinking everything. But deep down, I already knew, and all I needed was proof. A week after the text incident, I decided to follow my gut. I needed to know, so I did something I never thought I would do. I went through her phone. I waited until she was asleep, her breathing steady, her face peaceful, like she wasn't hiding a goddamn thing. And when I unlocked her phone, my worst fears weren't just confirmed. They were worse than I ever imagined. Because the text wasn't just from some random guy. It was from someone I knew. Eric, a guy from her office. Someone she had mentioned before in passing. Always casual, always unimportant. Except now, I was staring at months of messages. Months of speech balloon. I wish I could be with you tonight. Speech balloon. I can't stop thinking about the way you touched me. Speech balloon. He has no idea, does he? I felt my entire body go numb. I kept scrolling, each message slicing into me like a knife. Photos, videos, things that no husband should ever have to see. Things that made me feel like an idiot for ever believing she loved me. I dropped the phone onto the bed, staring at her. This woman I had built a life with. She was still sleeping, still completely unaware that everything had changed. That I wasn't the blind fool she thought I was anymore. And in that moment, something inside me snapped. I didn't wake her up. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just sat there, my heart pounding, my mind racing, feeling this cold, calculated rage settle into my bones. Because this wasn't just betrayal. This wasn't just some mistake. She had looked me in the eyes every single day and lied to me. She had kissed me after being with him. She had let me believe we were still us while she was sneaking around like I was some fool who would never find out. And Eric, this man who smiled at me at company events, who shook my hand like we were friends, he was laughing behind my back the entire time. No, I wasn't going to cry about this. I wasn't going to let them walk away without paying for what they did. I was going to burn everything to the ground. I stayed awake all night. By morning, I had a plan that would make sure neither of them would ever recover from this. I wasn't just going to expose them. I was going to destroy them. And when I was done, I was going to walk away and never look back. Because some betrayals, they don't deserve forgiveness. They deserve revenge. There's a difference between anger and vengeance. Anger is messy, impulsive. It makes people lash out and regret it later. But vengeance? Vengeance is controlled. It's precise. It's the kind of punishment that doesn't just hurt, it ruins. And after everything Laura and Eric had done to me, I didn't just want them to hurt. I wanted them to lose everything. I spent the entire night sitting in the darkness, staring at my wife, This woman who had looked me in the eyes every day and lied to me. By the time the sun came up, I wasn't the same man anymore. The version of me that loved her, that trusted her, gone, replaced by someone ruthless, calculated, cold. I had evidence, the texts, the photos, the proof of her affair with Eric. Now I just had to decide how to use it. And then it hit me. I wasn't just going to expose them. I was going to make sure their entire world collapsed around them. And I knew exactly where to start. Eric was one of those guys who liked to pretend he was untouchable. Married, 2 kids, a respectable career. The kind of guy who hid behind his perfect image while sneaking around like a snake. So I made sure everyone saw him for who he really was. I took every single screenshot, every message, every photo, every disgusting thing he said about his wife and family, and put them in an anonymous email. To his wife, to his boss, to every single one of his colleagues. And just for fun, I printed out copies and mailed them to his parents. Because if he wanted to play the perfect husband and father in public, then I wanted him to explain to his kids why Daddy was sleeping with another man's wife. Eric and Laura worked at the same company, which meant their affair wasn't just a betrayal. It was a workplace scandal waiting to explode. So I made sure the boss found out. I sent an anonymous tip to HR, attaching all the proof. And since Eric was a management position, sleeping with a subordinate, immediate termination. Laura wasn't spared either, because even if she wasn't fired outright, I knew what would happen next. She'd become the office joke, the whispers, the stares, the accidental emails sent to her that weren't meant for her eyes. She wouldn't be able to show her face at work again. I didn't just take their relationship down. I took their entire professional lives with it. I knew Laura was waiting for the right time to leave me, probably planning to do it when she had squeezed every last financial benefit from me. Too bad for her, I wasn't stupid anymore. The day after I sent out the emails, I walked into my lawyer's office with every piece of evidence in hand. The cheating, the deception, the proof that she had been spending money on hotels, gifts, and dinners for another man. By the time my lawyer was done drafting the divorce papers, Laura was looking at a $0 settlement. No house, no money, no safety net. She was about to be divorced, jobless, and broke, all in 1 week. A fitting end for someone who treated our marriage like a disposable napkin. The day everything unraveled, I wasn't home. I made sure to be out, enjoying my day, while Laura's world crumbled around her. And when she finally called me, I let it go to voicemail, because the sound of her begging for an explanation was just another form of justice. But that wasn't even the best part. The best part was when I got a text from Eric's wife. "Thank you. You just saved me years of my life. He's out of my house, and my lawyer is handling the rest. 2 marriages destroyed. 2 cheaters left with nothing. And me, completely free." Laura finally showed up at my door that night, crying, begging, acting like she was the victim. "I was going to tell you," she sobbed. "I just didn't know how." I looked at her, this woman I had once loved more than anything, and felt nothing. No sadness, no longing, not even anger, just indifference. Because the truth is, the opposite of love isn't hate. It's not giving a damn anymore. I stepped aside, letting her see the suitcases packed by the door. Her suitcases. I already had the locks changed, I said flatly. "Take your things and go." Her face crumbled. "You can't just throw me out like this." I smirked. "Actually, I can." And I just did. And then, without another word, I walked back inside, closed the door, and never looked back. Some people never recover from betrayal. They let it define them, let it eat away at them until they can't trust, can't love, can't move forward. But me? I didn't just survive. I thrived. White heavy checkmark, I rebuilt my life without her. White heavy checkmark, I started focusing on myself, my career, my happiness. White heavy checkmark, I became stronger, smarter, and completely untouchable. And the best part? I never wasted another second on her. No stalking her social media. No wondering if she regretted it. No giving her the satisfaction of knowing she still existed in my mind. Because once you destroy someone like that, the only thing left to do is move forward like they never mattered. And that's the real revenge. Time has a way of healing wounds, but it also has a way of exposing regrets. 5 years. That's how long it had been since I walked away from Laura without looking back. Since I burned her entire world to the ground and watched her disappear into nothing. And in those 5 years, I had rebuilt everything she tried to destroy. Stronger, smarter, happier. And the best part? She wasn't even a distant memory anymore. Until the day she came back. The man I was back then? The man who had been blindsided, broken, betrayed? He didn't exist anymore. The man I became? He was untouchable. I had spent the last 5 years. White heavy checkmark building my career to a level I never thought possible. White heavy checkmark traveling, experiencing life without the weight of her lies. White heavy checkmark becoming physically and mentally stronger. The kind of man who would never be used again. White heavy checkmark finding love again. But real love, not the illusion she fed me. I wasn't just surviving. I was thriving. And Laura? She was just another ghost from my past. Or so I thought. It happened on a normal afternoon. I was at my favorite cafe, drinking coffee, completely unbothered by the past. And then I felt it, that heavy weight of someone staring. I glanced up, and there she was. Laura, 5 years later, standing a few feet away, looking like she had seen a ghost. I expected to feel something. Anger, pain, resentment. But all I felt was nothing. Just emptiness. Like she was just another stranger in a crowded cafe. Which at this point, she was. She hesitated before walking over. I didn't invite her, didn't smile, didn't acknowledge her beyond a glance. But she sat down anyway. And then, in a voice I barely recognized, she said, "You look good." I leaned back, stirring my coffee, completely indifferent. I know, that threw her off. She had been expecting, what, exactly? That I'd be happy to see her, that I'd ask how she had been, that I'd still be carrying some tiny piece of love for her after all these years. She was dead wrong, and she was about to realize that very quickly. She sighed, looking down at her hands, and then she finally admitted it. I lost everything. I didn't react, because, honestly, I already knew. Eric? He had left her after he lost his job and his family. Her career? Dead in the water. Nobody wanted to hire someone known for office scandals. Her finances? Ruined. The divorce left her with nothing, just like I planned. She had spent years jumping from job to job, relationship to relationship. And now, she was just a shadow of the woman she used to be. I deserved it, she said softly, waiting for me to pity her. I just took another sip of my coffee, completely unbothered. Yeah, you did. Her face fell, because she wasn't expecting this version of me. The man who didn't care. The man who wasn't angry anymore. The man who had moved so far beyond her that she didn't even exist in his world. She swallowed hard, gripping her cup. Then, in a voice so small it was almost pathetic, she asked, "Do you ever think about us?" I looked her dead in the eyes, and with zero hesitation, I said, "No." Silence. She blinked like she couldn't believe it. Like it hadn't even occurred to her that I had erased her from my life so completely. She tried again. "Do you ever miss me?" I smirked. Miss what? The lies? The betrayal? The woman who used me until she got caught. She flinched. And then, she did something I never expected. She started crying. Not dramatic sobbing. Not some manipulative act. Just quiet, broken tears of regret. And for the first time, I saw it. She knew. She finally, truly knew that she had lost me forever. She wiped her face, trying to regain her composure. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I really am." I shrugged. Doesn't change anything. More silence. And then, for the first time ever, I saw it in her eyes. The regret. The realization that she had destroyed the only person who ever truly loved her. And now, she was alone. I glanced at my watch, then looked at her one last time. I have somewhere to be. I stood up, tossed some cash on the table, and walked out. No goodbye. No second glance. Nothing. Because some people don't deserve closure. They deserve to be left behind. And that's exactly what I did. As I stepped outside into the fresh air, I felt lighter than ever. Because this was the real revenge. Not the emails. Not the financial destruction. Not even exposing her to the world. No, the real revenge was this. Thriving while she suffered. Living while she regretted. Winning while she begged. And as I walked away, I smiled to myself. Because Laura? She was nothing now. And me? I had never been better. Love is a funny thing. When you're inside of it, you believe it's unbreakable. You tell yourself that what you have is different from everyone else, that your relationship is stronger, deeper, more real than the ones that fall apart, that the two of you will always find a way to make it work. That's what I believed about us. I thought we had something solid, something that would last a lifetime. But looking back, I realize now that I was the only one who truly believed in it. She didn't, and the signs were always there. I just refused to see them. From the moment I met her, she became my world. I was never the guy who fell easily. I had always been careful with love, not the type to rush into things. But with her, she had this effortless way of pulling me in. She made me laugh like no one else. She made even the smallest moments feel special. She made me feel like I had finally found my person. And because of that, I gave her everything. I always put her first. If she needed me, I was there, no matter how exhausted I was, no matter what I had to sacrifice. I was always thoughtful. I paid attention to the little things, always making sure she felt appreciated. I built my life around her. My choices, my time, my future plans, they all included her at the center. And for a long time, I thought she did the same for me. That was the illusion. That was the lie I told myself. Because the truth, she never made me her priority. She just enjoyed being mine. Looking back, the cracks were always there. Not huge, not obvious. Just little things that I ignored because I didn't want to believe she wasn't as invested as I was. She never went out of her way for me the way I did for her. I would plan surprises, date nights, thoughtful gestures, and she'd say, "That's sweet," but never reciprocate. When I was struggling, she was supportive, but from a distance. She'd say the right words, but there was no real effort to be there in the way I was always there for her. She was easily distracted. If something more exciting came along, a party, an opportunity to be with other people, she wouldn't think twice about canceling on me. At the time, I convinced myself that this was just who she was, that she still loved me, just in her own way. But now, I see it for what it really was. She liked having me, but she never really valued me. And that was the difference. People always ask, was it sudden or did it happen over time? The truth? Both. She had always been like this. But for the longest time, I didn't feel it. Because she was still affectionate. Because she still said, "I love you." Because she still acted like we were a team. But at some point, things started shifting. She started taking longer to respond to my texts. Hours would pass without a word, even when I knew she wasn't busy. She started canceling plans more often, with excuses that felt more like afterthoughts than real reasons. She started acting like being with me was an obligation instead of something she wanted. And when I confronted her, she'd say, "You're overthinking things." And I believed her. Because when you love someone, you don't want to believe they're pulling away. You want to believe that things will go back to how they were. But deep down, I think I always knew. She was already halfway out the door. She just hadn't told me yet. The moment it really hit me wasn't a huge fight. It wasn't some dramatic scene. It was something simple. A small moment that told me everything I needed to know. We were sitting at dinner one night. I was telling her about something important to me, a project I'd been working on for months. I was excited, passionate, expecting her to be engaged the way she used to be. But she wasn't. She was barely listening. Her eyes kept flicking to her phone. She kept checking notifications, barely nodding along to what I was saying. I felt myself deflate mid-sentence. And when I finally stopped talking, she didn't even notice. She just looked up and said, "Oh, sorry, what were you saying?" And in that moment, it hit me like a truck. I wasn't her priority anymore. I was just background noise. And for the first time, I couldn't lie to myself about it. That night, something in me shifted. I realized that I'd spent years making her the center of my world, while she had slowly, quietly pushed me to the side of hers. And no matter how much I loved her, love wasn't enough. Because love should be reciprocal. Love should be effort on both sides. Love should never make you feel like you're begging for attention from the person who's supposed to care about you the most. And when she said those final words the next day, "You're not my priority anymore," it didn't even surprise me. It just confirmed what I had already known for a long time. And that was the moment I decided I would never make her a priority again, either. Some people think the worst part of a breakup is the fight before the end, the shouting, the accusations, the ugly truths thrown back and forth. But sometimes the worst endings don't come with a fight. Sometimes the most devastating thing you can do is saying nothing at all. Because silence is final. And when she looked at me that night and said, "You're not my priority anymore," something inside me snapped into place. Not in anger, not in sadness, not even in regret, just clarity. I wasn't going to beg. I wasn't going to argue. I wasn't going to ask her to explain herself. I was just going to disappear. And the next morning, I did. After she said it, she went back to scrolling through her phone like it was nothing. Like she hadn't just told me, flat out, that I was no longer important to her. I sat there for a moment, staring at her, wondering how the hell I had been so blind for so long. I wanted to ask, when did I stop mattering to you? Did you ever really love me? Are you even aware of what you just said? But I already knew the answer. She wasn't. She was checked out. And the realization of that hit me like a punch to the gut. For the first time, I saw it. I mean, really saw it. I wasn't her person anymore. Hell, I wasn't even an afterthought. I was just there. So I got up. Quietly. She barely noticed. And that was when I knew for sure. I could leave right now, and she wouldn't even care. I didn't sleep that night. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, listening to her breathe beside me. At some point, I turned my head to look at her, just watching. I tried to remember the last time I felt truly close to her. The last time she looked at me like she was happy I was there. I couldn't remember, and that was enough for me. So, at 5 a.m., while the world was still quiet, I got up and started packing my things. Not in anger, not in heartbreak, not in a rush, just calmly, methodically, deliberately. Every shirt, every book, every single trace of my existence in her life. Gone. I left the keys on the counter, left my name off the lease, left her world as easily as she had left mine. And by the time the sun came up, I was already gone. She didn't notice right away. Not when she woke up. Not when she went about her morning routine like everything was fine. It wasn't until hours later, when she finally checked her phone, that she saw my message. "You don't have to worry about me being your priority anymore. I'm gone." She called. I didn't answer. She texted. I didn't respond. Because for the first time ever, she wasn't my priority anymore, either. At first, she didn't believe it. She thought I was bluffing. She texted things like, "Are you seriously doing this? This is childish. You're overreacting." But I wasn't, because you can't overreact to someone who has already written you off. Then, as the reality set in, her messages changed. "Speech balloon, we should talk about this. Speech balloon, let's figure things out. Speech balloon, why are you shutting me out?" But by then, it was too late. She had already shut me out long before I ever walked away. People say that leaving someone is hard, that you feel regret, that you feel sadness, that you wonder if you made the right choice. But here's the truth. The hardest part isn't leaving. It's realizing you should have left a long time ago. The moment I closed the door behind me, I expected to feel something. Guilt, pain, a longing to go back. But all I felt was relief. Like I had finally put down a weight I didn't even realize I was carrying. And as I drove away, watching that chapter of my life shrink in the rearview mirror, I realized something. I didn't just leave her behind. I left behind a version of me who would ever tolerate being second place to someone who should have loved me first. And that was the most freeing moment of my life. When I walked away from her that morning, I knew I wasn't just leaving a relationship. I was leaving a version of myself that tolerated being treated like an afterthought. There was no yelling, no dramatic fight, no last-minute pleas or desperate apologies. Just silence. And that silence? That was the loudest thing she had ever heard. Because when someone disappears without a trace, without a word, without a single look back, that's when you realize what you lost. And for the first time, she had to live without me. The first few days, I could tell she didn't think I was really gone. She kept calling, kept texting, kept trying to reach me like this was just some childish tantrum I was throwing. "Speech balloon, are you done with this yet? Speech balloon, can you stop being dramatic and talk to me? Speech balloon, so what? You're just ghosting me now." I ignored every single message. Because what was there to say? She had already made herself clear. I wasn't a priority. And now, she wasn't mine either. A few weeks passed, and the messages changed. They weren't frustrated anymore. They weren't dismissive or mocking. Now, they sounded like regret. Can we talk? I didn't mean it the way it sounded. I miss you. But by then, I had already learned the truth. She didn't miss me. She missed the access to me. She missed having someone who always put her first. She missed having someone who loved her unconditionally, despite the way she treated me. She missed knowing that no matter what she did, I would always stay. But that version of me didn't exist anymore. For the first time in years, my life was fully mine again. I stopped making decisions around someone who never considered me. I started focusing on my own happiness, my own goals, my own future. I became stronger, sharper, and completely free from her influence. And slowly, day by day, I started to feel alive again. Not just existing, not just going through the motions, not just trying to earn love from someone who never truly gave it, but actually living. I found new routines, new passions, new people who treated me like I actually mattered. And the more I grew, the more she faded from my mind. It was about 4 months later when she reached out again. But this time, there was no arrogance in her words, no dismissive tone, just quiet desperation. Speech balloon. I don't know why I said what I did that night. Speech balloon. I think I made a mistake. Speech balloon, can we meet? I looked at my phone at the messages from the woman who once thought she could push me to the side without consequences. And I smiled. Not because I was happy she regretted it. Not because I wanted her back. But because, for the first time, I felt nothing. She was just a memory now. A lesson. A chapter 1 had closed forever. I didn't answer. I didn't acknowledge her. I just deleted the messages and went back to my life. Because I had already won. And she had lost the only man who ever truly cared about her. For good. Years passed. And then, one day, I saw her again. Not on purpose. Not because I was looking for her. Just fate putting us in the same place at the same time. She was at a cafe, sitting alone, staring at her phone with this distant, empty look on her face. She looked older. Not physically, but in a way that showed she had lived a hard few years. And when she glanced up and saw me, I saw it. The recognition. The instant rush of regret in her eyes. The realization that I was happy, thriving, and completely over her. She stood up like she wanted to say something. Like she thought she still had a chance to explain. But I didn't give her one. I just smirked, nodded once, and walked away. No words. No emotions. No second glance. Because some people don't deserve closure. They deserve to live with their mistakes. And that was the final lesson I ever gave her. Healing isn't just about moving on from the past. It's about building a future that makes the past irrelevant. For a long time, I didn't think about love. After walking away from her, I focused on myself. I rebuilt my career. I found peace in being alone. I became the kind of man who would never let anyone treat him as second place again. I wasn't looking for love. I wasn't chasing it. And maybe that's why, when it finally came, it felt real in a way it never had before. Because I didn't have to fight for it. I didn't have to prove my worth. I didn't have to beg to be a priority. With her, love wasn't something I had to earn. It was something that was freely given. I met Sophia at a mutual friends gathering. It wasn't some fairy tale moment. No sparks flying, no dramatic first encounter. Just a conversation that felt easy. She wasn't trying to impress me. She wasn't playing any games. She wasn't making me guess whether I was important to her or not. She was just real. And that was something I hadn't felt in years. For the first time, I was talking to a woman who made me feel seen. Not as an option. Not as someone convenient. Not as a placeholder. But as someone who mattered. With her, there were no mixed signals. No nights spent wondering where I stood in her life. No texts left unanswered. No effort I put in that wasn't reciprocated. She showed up, not just in the big moments, but in the small ones. When I talked, she actually listened. When I made plans, she was excited, not indifferent. When she introduced me to her friends, she said, "This is him," with a smile that told me she had already chosen me. And for the first time in my life, I didn't have to wonder if I was enough. She made it clear every single day. There was one moment that made everything click for me. It was a small thing. One of those days where life was busy, exhausting, overwhelming. I was stressed out from work, drained from meetings, barely keeping it together. And then, in the middle of the day, I got a message from her. I know you've got a long day. Just wanted to remind you that I'm proud of you. Can't wait to see you later. Let me know if you need anything. It wasn't just the words. It was the thought behind them. She didn't need anything from me. She wasn't reaching out because she was bored or because she wanted attention. She was reaching out because she cared, because she actually wanted to support me. And that was something I had never had before. Love shouldn't feel like a battle for validation. It shouldn't feel like a test you have to pass every day. And with Sophia, it didn't. She made me feel safe, like I didn't have to constantly prove my worth. She made me feel valued, like everything I gave was appreciated, not just expected. She made me feel at home, like I finally found the place where I was supposed to be. It was effortless, because real love isn't something you chase. It's something you step into when the right person finds you. One night, we were sitting on the couch, just talking, and out of nowhere, she said something I'll never forget. I just want you to know, you'll never have to wonder if you're important to me. You'll never have to question how much I care about you. I looked at her, stunned, because those were the exact thoughts that had haunted me for years in my last relationship. The doubts, the insecurity, the exhaustion of being with someone who never made me a priority. And here she was, without even knowing it, erasing every single one of those fears. That's when I knew. She was it. She was everything I had been missing, everything I had deserved all along. Years later, I found out that my ex had never really moved on. She had dated around, had a few relationships that never lasted, had tried to rekindle things with me, only to realize I was already gone. And Sophia had made me happier than I had ever been. She didn't just love me. She showed me what love was supposed to feel like. And for the first time, I was grateful. Grateful that my ex let me go. Grateful that I walked away before I wasted another second on someone who never deserved me. Because in the end, I didn't just leave my past behind. I found a future that made it completely irrelevant. And that was the greatest ending I could have ever asked for.